Hey kids, howdy, and welcome to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. That's me. It's January 12th. We're talking about the week that goes from January 12th through the 18th. It's a quietish week, though, because the Venus is going to change signs. That's a big deal. We'll talk about that. And we finally have this new moon in Capricorn. It must be because I'm writing about it so frequently for the weeks that led up to it. Every day last week, I was like, oh, that new moon's coming. And it's like, oh, no, it's 12 days away. Oh, that new moon's coming. It's like, oh, no, it's 9 days away.
Were you excited about it for any particular reason?
Well, yes, this was not my favorite lunar cycle for myself, but the new moon that happens on Sunday kind of completes a couple of years of activation of my Mercury, which connects to my voice and my writing. And in fact, I've been working on the sort of what would be the second draft of the Beginner's Guide to Dream Interpretation. How that works with the book is you write your manuscript based on the agreement, and then you send it in. The acquisitions editor and the content editor sit down and read it, and a bunch of other people say, well, let's do this, this, and this, and they tweak it. That's what I'm in now. And so Sunday's new moon trines my Mercury while Uranus is trining my Mercury after a couple of years of big trines to my Mercury. So, that's my personal story. But the gathering stellium in Capricorn is so unprecedented and focused. And trining Uranus for all of us on Sunday, right? Not just me. We are all in a position to be setting new moon intentions, just like we do every January with the Capricorn new moon. But this year, it truly hits different because of all of the volume of energy having the personal planets all gathering there. So we're going to talk all about that this week because it's finally here.
It's here.
My only announcement is Jumpstart Your Spiritual Practice is in 2 weeks. We start I think it's the last Saturday of the month. That's on the 24th, a Saturday. Very excited to be teaching this again for the first time in a couple of years. People are signing up, which excites me as well. Not only just for the success of the class, more people's more fun, but also just people stepping up to what I've been saying for a year leading into this wild year is, if we don't put our spiritual practice first, I don't know how else we're going to get through a year where we're going to have to try to find grace while the outside world is in some chaos. So sometimes I answer a question on the podcast. What I have to say is, well, I don't know very much about that. But I thought this was an interesting question because astrology can, in fact, address Allie's question, though I'm not an expert in this. So let's start with what she says. Allie writes in, I have been seeing ads on social media for learning astrology where the teacher talks about how your chart can reveal what your body needs in terms of nutrition and food for its best health and functioning. Is that true? And if it is, how does that work?
Wow, I've never heard that.
Well, yes, it's true, and it's like I have no expertise in there. But this is sort of, again, I hate to not be able to really give you a good answer, Allie, because she finishes, I just found out that I am pre-diabetic, and I am freaking out a little bit. I know I have to change how I eat, but right now I'm grasping at straws, looking for some motivation and discipline. Can astrology help me with this?
Wow.
Yeah.
This is
everyone
really different from any question.
No, truly. And every once in a while, I'll bump into, it's not a regret exactly, but I'll say to myself like this, I would love to be able to answer this question, not only for Allie, but even maybe for myself.
Yeah.
So astrology or your natal chart will reflect this by virtue of what rules your sixth house, which is the house of health and the body's functioning, what sign rules that house, and if you have any planets in that house. I would imagine as well that there could be things you could work with Mars's placement, both sign and house, because Mars rules here's how that works. Mars and the sign of Aries invents the body. Because of Aries, we have one. He springs forth and says, I am, and he's got a body as a result. It's Virgo that says, ooh, I know how to run this. I can keep it healthy. I can keep it moving. I can have it be able to, create things for yourself. The element of the sign, I believe, has something to do with identifying like how your body processes nutrition and converts it into energy. There's an order of body rulership through the signs where like it starts at the top. Aries is the head, Taurus the throat. To stop from the top and go to the bottom. So if you have a sign that is one of those planet rulers on your sixth house cusp, that might give you an idea about Mercury being, neurological issues, Venus being, emotional regulation, Mars maybe relating directly to fitness and nutrition. And I'm guessing with a little bit of information, like this would be something I would trust you, Ali, to go to AI with. Not to like give them the whole chart and say, hey, read this for me. But what is reliable in the AI world would be something like this, like, hey, my sixth house is ruled by Taurus, and I have, blah-bitty-blah planet in that house. That interpretation you'll get is valid from AI as long as you don't make it too complicated and as long as it doesn't require like an ephemeris, like knowing where planets are at any given time. Mm-hmm. So if you keep the ask very simple, like, what does it mean to have moon in Libra? Not, my Libra moon squares my Mars, squares my moon, and conjuncts my doodle-doo. What does that mean? It's like you're going to get a made-up answer. And there are astrologers out there, none that I could refer you to, who are experts in this, which is why you saw someone advertising what they teach based on what they know. Just like I do, only I've never been captivated by the idea of health and nutrition as reflected by my chart. If I had been introduced to that 30 years ago, who knows? I might think it was the bee's knees. So Sunday morning, like next Sunday morning, the 18th, at around 11:51 a.m. Pacific, is the new moon in Capricorn. I've been making a very big deal about this new moon because it is a little rare and unprecedented what's sort of lining up with this lunation, which to me is just the perfect kind of lunation to have in a year that's going to rock our worlds and show us things we've not seen before. And so I like the fact that our preparatory new moon has some gravitas.
We are like 2 weeks in, and I think we've seen already some.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I have had several people reach out to me last week who are like, excuse me, you said the summer's going to be like bigger? And I'm like, yeah, I'm so sorry. Yes. Like what we're seeing now is a precursor to what will come that will be more.
My God.
Remember, I'll say this now, I'll hopefully say it a lot, is do not forget that grand sextiles between outer planets is phenomenal for us personally. It's creative energy and magnificent change and transformation energy, right? So when we talk about the world and politics, it's so overwhelming that as an astrologer, I have a responsibility to say what I see about the year. But we can really easily get lost in the uh-oh of it and forget that we all just have lives and we have beautiful lives. Some of us are working to have even more beautiful lives, and that's not going to stop just because I can barely finish that sentence.
Yeah.
So part of why this is so, like air quotes, big of a moment is the dynamic that the outer planets are holding last year and this year is epic, it's concise, it's geometrically powerful, and it's the reflection of all of the change on the planet. What the personal planets have been doing since October last year is as unprecedented at the personal planet level that the outer planets are at their outer level. That's why I'm excited about the new moon itself. I'm excited about it personally for myself. And I do confess that I'm also just excited as an astrologer. So I hope I'm not overselling this, but I believe I'm in the right room when I talk about how and why and what this, importance is made out of. So today, as we meet, we've got Mercury, Mars, Sun, and Venus all in Capricorn. They are really close. Last week was the week where they crunched up with the Sun, and Venus and Mars met up last week by conjunction. They're still very close. What makes this week and this Sunday important is Mercury is now close enough to be truly conjunct this stellium. Venus is in the lead. Love that. We move heart first. The Sun follows, and that's the anchor, the luminary that says we're about to do something new. Mars is right behind the Sun, saying the body's in the mix, and so goals and aspirations and our physical experience is right there in the mix. And with Mercury 3 degrees away, you got Sun at 22, Mars at 21, Mercury at 17. We start the week today with our perceptions, our use of our voice, the communication experience in general, and the ideas that we want to be sharing with the world, perhaps connected to the goals we might set, is in the room as well. We can now, all week long, use our mind, thinking, writing, and perception experience to facilitate, moving our way towards the best expression of intention setting that we can by the time we get to Sunday. So let's recap to the new moon in October in Libra. That kicked off this entire parade of the personal planets. The gathering began. And so that as all of the personal planets began to travel in a group, they moved out of Scorpio and into Sag. While they crossed the border between the very end of one sign and the beginning of the other, they made contact with the outer planets. Then they traveled together to move through Sag, where they did the same thing. At the end of Sag and the beginning of Capricorn, they were making direct contact with everybody on the outside. Scorpio transforms. Sagittarius aligns us with what is so and true for us. And then in Capricorn, we say, okay, what do I want to do with all of this knowledge, wisdom, movement, momentum, vision, and desire to create things of form that I can be proud of? So all week long, each day passes, we move a little further with everybody inching forward in Capricorn. It's Friday when it gets kind of juicy because this is a very long dark of the moon. Sunday's new moon takes place at 28 degrees and 43 minutes, almost 29 degrees of Capricorn. So that means when the moon moves into 0 degrees of Capricorn on Friday, the fertile soil is activated. Because once the sun and the moon are in the same sign, no matter how long or short it is between the moon's entrance and the peak of the lunation, the sun and the moon are digging holes into that fertile soil, getting ready to plant the seeds that we dictate are going to be placed there. Also on Friday, Venus moves to the final mastery degree of Capricorn. So when we start the day on Friday, the moon will have moved into Capricorn, And all of the personal planets will be smattered across this sign, with Venus at the very final mastery degree. The 30th degree of Capricorn is, well, it's a Saturn-ruled sign. So if you're going to talk about mastery in this sign, it has to connect to wisdom and, what you learn through experience so that you can build better structures when you know more about how your heart works, if that's a way to put it. So because the moon is already in Capricorn on Friday, we are already in that fertile intention setting while Venus is holding this sacred point of the sort of the master builder consciousness, 29 Capricorn. And by the time we get past midnight and into Saturday Pacific time, Venus leaves Capricorn behind and enters Aquarius. So that breaks the stellium before the new moon is exact on Sunday. But I like this, and here's why. If you approach this new moon with the same old, and Capricorn has a relationship to the tried and true. Like if it got the goat up the mountain yesterday, the goat might climb the same way today. That's not sufficient for a moment in time when we're exploding with revolutionary change. Revolutionary change reflects the sign of Aquarius. We are in the age of Aquarius. Navigating the bridge between the old guard and the new world that is the age of Aquarius it's a mighty shit show. Just let's look out. It's what we're doing on a consciousness level. So this building month after month alignment of the personal planets and now the sun and the moon means that we are perfectly aligned, body, voice, feelings, and spirit. But when the juicy moment comes, our heart centers are already in rebellious Aquarius. We need to be able to break out of old boxes created by Capricorn into new shapes designed by Uranus-ruled Aquarius. So the fact that our heart centers will already be in that rebellious and sometimes unstable territory and about 3 days away from conjuncting with Pluto, I think that's a rich way to incorporate both what we know is right for us in terms of structure, but also what might help the world and humanity by understanding what we might love the most in our own hearts, so that what we're creating is also contributing to what the world needs at this time. Everybody else will be moving into Aquarius in the weeks to come. But when Venus changes signs, we're put on notice that we are moving into a new sort of emotional body coloring for 3.5 weeks. Given the outrageous amount of just tearful emotionality that's out there, if you look at my comments on TikTok, everybody's weeping. Part of that is because Jupiter in Cancer is, in and of itself, Jupiter's not an overtly emotional, planet, but it is about expansion and making anything and everything bigger. And so as everybody has opposed Jupiter last week, could sort of lift up a lot of feels for a lot of people. Water brings empathy, compassion, impulses to care and nurture. But at this moment, I don't know that we need that as much as we need a little coolness, a little less, overt vulnerability, a little more distance from the feelings we're having about how scary the world is, because for the next 3.5 weeks, Our heart centers are ruled by Uranus, who knows sudden change, and so our hearts are ready. So, Sundays, new moon in Capricorn at 28 degrees, 43 minutes of Capricorn, peaks at 11:51 a.m. Pacific time. The most direct player in Sunday's new moon is Uranus, because the precision counts, as you all know I'm overly obsessed with. The sun and the moon are at 28 Cap, and Mercury and Mars are at 26 Capricorn, and Uranus is at 27 Taurus. 27 is the midpoint between 26 and 28. So the geometry then is very precise, with the planet that allows sudden change, comfort with unstable territory if it's creative for us, right? Sometimes creativity gives us the sort of like tenuous grasp to sort of security and grounding, because that fosters things coming through our consciousness. Uranus is the great awakener, so we're all being sort of woken up a little bit in terms of how we're aligning our walk and talk, Mercury and Mars, and how we're setting intentions for what we want to create in the lunar cycle and the year ahead. But remember how I also said that the sun and the moon are I didn't say it this way, but I'll say it this way now. They are 1/4 of a degree away from being at 29 degrees of Cap. And then over in Pisces, splitting the big triangle between the stellium and Uranus, is Saturn at 27 degrees of Pisces and Neptune at the anaretic mastery degree of his ruling sign. Now, if you watched my astro overview for the year, and by the way, you can still get a recording of that, we talked about how, one of the reasons why 2026 was going to promise to be a little bit more intense than 25 is that there are geometries that hinted last year that will, what we call, perfect this year. Back to the precision, I promise you that, Uranus and Pluto may be holding a loose trine, reflecting all of this slow and fast change, but it will be more explosive when they are holding it exactly. So right now, that's not the case. That's why we're not in the hot summer yet. But we still have the shape of the grand sextile, where fast and slow change are also working with the beliefs, ideologies, inspiration, and responsibility to create all sorts of new stuff. Hence what I said at the top of the podcast, that this is very creative, very inspired energy to play with, to create from. So this key moment, which is ruled by Saturn, meaning it's coming from the teacher, he's telling us, here's what you have to do to be prepared for the year ahead. This Saturn-ruled new moon with Mercury and Mars right there is activating the grand sextile, as it might as well be a perfection moment, because the sun and the moon, the two luminaries, will perfect each one of these geometries some point during the couple of days around the new moon. This is one of those moments where the boy who cried wolf is, a challenge for me, right? I'm so hyperbolic about everything is the biggest and the most. So we bump into moments like this where I have to say, all right, kids, I know that I'm dramatic in my language, but I want to be really clear that the way things are lining up these 2 years and in this new moon, unprecedented, very powerful, 11 out of 10 astrology. Yes, we need to set intentions to shore ourselves up in a guarded kind of way, because that's a Capricorn sensibility, while also remembering that we have beautiful lives to continue to nurture and create with, through, and as, so that the service I keep talking about us having to do is coming not from what you're doing, but who you are being. So the contradiction is Capricorn is all about doing. I don't give a fuck. We all have to learn how to be while we're doing so that the doing has more love, compassion, forgiveness, and care built into it. Have at it.
Did you know that Michael has a daily astro alert? If you enjoy hearing the weekly astrology, you might like knowing more about each day. When you subscribe for the daily astro alerts, you'll get an in-depth explanation of the day's astrology sent right to your email. Subscriptions are only $10 a month, or you can purchase the yearly subscription at the reduced price of $100. To subscribe, head over to michaellennox.com. All right, it's dream segment time. Every week, Dr. Michael will interpret dreams that are sent in via email or take a live caller. If you would like your dream interpreted on the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at dreams@michaellennox.com. Hopefully your dream will make it onto the show.
This week we have an email and dream from Rose Marie. She's emailing us from New York right now.
Alrighty.
So she says she thanks us for the teachings. This is a dream she had after the December full moon,
Okay.
on which she had slept with an ex whose Pluto squares her Venus.
Okay.
I'm walking on a nature trail in winter. The trail loops around an open meadow and into a wooded area. It's surrounded by hills and quite enclosed. I notice dusk is approaching and decide to start jogging to make sure I'm out before the darkness descends. On my right, a man and his child are sledding down a hill. I see what appears to be their dog running down the hill towards me. I decide to stop running and walk briskly away. I don't have the best relationships with stranger dogs because I was attacked as a child. The dog approaches me but looks like a light beige colored wolf with very long legs. I turn my back to it and shout, "No!" The wolf retreats after testing my boundaries. I start to run again and notice a tall man walking briskly aside me in the same direction. As we journey just into a lightly wooded part of the trail, a much larger wolf with darker brown and gray worked into its light-colored coat comes into view. I try the same technique and realize I have been cornered between a tree trunk and a shrub.
'Cause you're
Yes,
in
drama.
the woods. You're in the woods. Keep going.
Yeah. The man slips into a small shack as the wolf jumps up with its paws on my shoulders, snapping at me as I push it away. I bite the wolf hard on the fleshy back part of its nose and take a chunk out. I feel the... Oh, gross. Okay, it gets gross. I feel the fleshy tear between my teeth and mouth, and my mouth fills with blood. I hate every second of it, and I don't want to hurt the wolf, but realize I will be killed if I don't defend myself. It bites at me again, and we lock jaws. I can feel its teeth pressing into my soft palate, and I bite hard back. The wolf retreats, and I spit the blood and its nose flesh onto the white snow. I'm furious that the man didn't come out of the shed to try and chase it off.
Oh, yeah.
He slips out, and I tell him just that as he continues on the trail. I carry on, and my awareness reemerges in a small ski town at the end of the trail, on top of one of the surrounding hills. I'm talking at a table with a young man wearing all brown. It matches his light brown complexion. He appears to be a therapist of some sort and asks me, "So what do you want in a partner?"
Okay.
I smile and laugh to myself. Too much according to everyone else. I
Made me laugh.
yeah. I answer with the values that are most important to me: honesty, courage, magic, but don't remember everything I responded with. He looks at me and non-verbally communicates, "It's not too much because I can do that." I'd love to keep talking and want to make time for more, but I have another appointment. He says before gesturing to a digital clock attached to the stucco wall of a nearby chalet. It reads
Oh,
1:11.
I love that.
And that's the end of the dream. She says, I woke up. I'm a prophetic dreamer who often interfaces with the spiritual realm in my dreams. I often have lucid and visceral dream experiences, but this one really lingered in the days that followed. Thank you for any juicy insight, Rosemary.
Fabulous.
Yes, I thought the wolf was full drama, and I think it's been a while since we've had wolf
Yeah,
symbolism.
I think so. Well, let's start with that. You know, wolves are pack animals. They're feminine and matriarchal in nature. So there's community and feminine solidarity in wolf consciousness. And, you know, there's a direct connection symbolically between wolves and the moon. So the moon is also the feminine aspect of consciousness. We all know what happened to that, you know, alpha theory, where men through the male gaze was like, ooh, look, alpha, just like me. When in fact, that is not at all how wolves operate. They operate as feminine. And so one of the things I want to mention that just occurs to me as I'm saying that, the wolf then can also be reflecting sort of the community of women that Rosemary might sort of lean into for what wisdom might be that's shared by her community. The fact that it was a full moon dream is sort of cute with the wolf consciousness when the moon was full. So let's just talk about the X. Let me just make sure I got this right. His Pluto squares her Venus. Is that what she said?
Yes.
Ouch. Right. So because she mentions him, right? So I have to incorporate that into how I hold the dream. Like, why? Why does she mention him? I mean, obviously it was germane to the timing and her sense of the dream. But for me, it's like, okay, if there's an X in the waking life and the planet of death and power struggles and ugly communication and interaction energy that people shove into the shadow and pretend aren't there in him, was causing great conflict for her emotional body and her experience of love. I'm taking her side in the breakup there. So I don't know exactly how the breakup happened, but I can tell you that dynamic alone means intense relationship that probably was more about learning something about the giving and receiving of love than meeting your forever partner. Natural trail means personal walk, intimate to self. Rosemary's not in interaction consciousness or social consciousness. So that even everything that happens within the dream, it's still about her solo, lone journey as a human being and as a woman. It's winter. That means everything's frozen. So ultimately, we know this dream is about personal love. Why? Because the dude at the end said, by the way, this dream is about your desires for a relationship. So because we know that, then we also understand that the winter means love doesn't feel present. Love has died. And then with every winter, there's the hope that spring might come. So that's a significant detail that Rosemary's psyche added. Now, the woods are about shadow work, and specifically shadow work that is about like behaviors and how we respond consciously to material that's hidden from us, right? If it was like the sub-basement in the dark, that would be hidden, hidden, hidden. But the woods have speckled sunlight, which means we have access to our conscious awareness in limited supply in the woods, but mostly we're in hidden places where suddenly I'm thinking about how many wolves there are in the woods in fairy tales. Oh, why not? I was making a joke, but this is probably a little too obtuse in my projection, but wolves in the woods when it's about... All right, that's too much for me. I think that's too much for me. But the fact that she goes slightly into the woods, not terribly far, but far enough in to sort of get backed into a tree, that becomes important for later in the dream. But before we get there, we've got the first dude, the one sledding down the hill. Well, for one thing, that image alone suggests a kind of urgency because something coming downhill has momentum and speed that might not be controllable, right? So on the one hand, that image is about things that are coming at Rosemary that she's not going to be able to avoid, like somehow interacting with, but she tries. So she's trying to walk away. So then we have the dog consciousness, which she let us know is a source of fear in waking life. But that's not going to stop me from interpreting dog as access to unconditional love, because that's how we sort of in the top line universal interpretation, we create dogs and cats as pets to have love reflected right back to us. So she thinks it's going to be love. And despite her being a little afraid of love, she decides to sort of lightly approach. But she turns back and says no. Once she's like, it's a wolf, she's like, oh, no, don't. Now, you might think of that as appropriate for her survival and like a good idea. I'm going to say no. That's a call to look at shadow, at patterns, at ancestral, feminine connections about love. That's sort of the beige wolf is like shadow light. Do a little beige shadow work and you'll find the loving message that the, moment is offering you. And she says no. So it's when the tall man sort of leads her, or somehow they all get into the woods in earnest, that's where we know that she's going to be trapped by the shadow work. That to me says she's at a moment in this, self-reflection journey around love and relationship must be done. She's backed against a tree, in a manner that the beige wolf might have, offered the easier, softer way, but no, you're going to do it the hard way, it seems. Everything about the biting of the wolf, which, by the way, is just so yummy and juicy. When a dream gets visceral and creepy like that, to me, that's rich. It means there's such importance and passion involved around whatever issue the dream is revealing that it needs really, shadowy imagery. But the thing that strikes me is the mouth. It's the wolf's mouth. It's her mouth. She's biting the wolf. There was a soft palate somewhere in there, locking jaws. So what I love about that is that's the shadow work. That's the shadow of things I never was willing to say that I'm grappling with in a shadow way to say, okay, I'm going to die to my old voice, killed by the wolf, to be born into a new voice. But then there's even a third set of resistance. Well, where's the dude? Where's the man? He should be saving me from this shadow work. That to me is a wishful thinking of, a man who's a good man, not a Pluto square my Venus man, would solve all of this. Because she's, calling in help that she doesn't really need. I'm getting a little hit about the ski town.
Being significant.
Well, what happens in a ski town? You fly down the mountain like the dude in the beginning of the dream did. Right? So I'm not like overwhelmed with clarity about this, but I think that since it's a detail and that skiing implies like an ability to be facile and speedy in a moment when emotions are frozen because there's, something hibernating happening. So again, I'm not confident about that little piece, but it popped in, so I said it. The last bit of the dream is like almost so literal that if I saw it written in a screenplay, I'd be like, oh, they really blew that ending. Right? Because the man is a part of Rosemary. It's a kind of a gentle, masculine figure, right? So part of how she brings the doing and masculine principle to dating and relationship. He's a therapist, so he's reflecting a part of Rosemary that knows a bit about her patterns and her past. And then in my note taking, what do you want in a partner? Too much. I wrote too much in all caps. Besides that, I have been carrying women through this, wound for 3 decades.
Right.
I have that wound. Like, I'm the one who's been, you're too much, you're too dramatic, you're too loud. And it's like, when I was younger, it'd be like, fuck you, you're in the wrong room, get out. And now, with integration, I don't have a shadow relationship to my size and enormity and drama. So there's nobody objecting to it because I own it.
Yeah.
So somehow this dream is giving Rosemary kind of like the next level of high quality process work that the dream tells me is already happening. It's not like, oh, now you got to go do this, Rosemary. It's like, no, Rosemary, this is what's happening. And if you identify with the interpretation and have the desire to generate a new experience for yourself, set intentions in Sunday's new moon to bring in a partnership that is a perfect mirror and reflection for the developed level of human that you're being right now, Rosemary. Have at it.
Thank you for listening to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. You can find us on Apple Music, the iHeartRadio app, and anywhere you find your favorite shows. Head on over to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the Daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list.